Right. No. Sorry, I was a bit... Right, we ready? Okay, so this week my blog is on the use of punishment in education and the effectiveness of it and different ways that it's implemented and if they're effective, moral, or just a way of controlling students to do what you want without them giving any thought. So, give it a click. Corporal punishment is the first use of punishment that I will mention. Apparently, this, if you don't know what corporal punishment is, this is where you use like physical violence to control control students. So if they don't do something you want, then you'll just give them like a little clip or something. And this has been found to have positive correlations with attention, found by Witt and Grossman, 1971. And also, according to this table, South Korea are the best provide the best education system in the whole of the world. So, and they employ corporal punishment regularly. So, because they're top, it sort of suggests that it has got its benefits. Also, Penny and Lupton found that it had increases in learning in participants, and also found that when used effectively, it decreases unwanted behaviours in students because they don't want to repeat the behaviour because they don't want the punishment, the physical punishment. However, there are some disadvantages. Firstly, it has also been found to have a decrease in the rate of learning. There are two reasons explained for this. That being physically punished ignites the flight or flight response in students. So in this sort of state, anxiety is raised, attention's raised, so you retain to things, but because your anxiety is so much higher, you begin in a state of wanting to either hit your teacher, which has been found to be the case in many schools, or you want to flee from the sort of perceived danger, so you'll just, instead of looking to do work, you'll try and avoid it at sort of all costs, because you don't want to be in a situation where you may get punished. Also, it's been found to cause a state of learned helplessness. So, if you're physically punished over like a long period of time, say over like 2 weeks of school, you repeatedly get told off, hit for bad behaviour, you just sort of accept this punishment. So you turn up to school expecting that I'm turning up to school today. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. So that's not good. Also, if you're exposed to physical violence in school, then it's been found to highly correlate with violent crimes as an adult. This has been found to be the case because you get skewed social norms from being exposed. As if you're exposed to, say, every time you see you do a bad behaviour or appeared as a bad behaviour, if you see someone being violent towards them to control them, you think that's acceptable. So if someone doesn't do what I want, I will physically hit them and stuff, which clearly isn't the thing to do, really. And also, Bandura found that you learn from role models. So if your role models are being violent, you'll probably be violent. And also, by physically punishing people who stand out from the crowd, by just being a little bit different, you will cross all creativity, and you'll just produce like a class of drones who are just all conforming, doing the same thing. So, an alternative is to use timeouts. This is effective in presenting problem behaviour for children who crave attention. Because this works because if a child goes to a class and just shows off to his peers, if you take them out of that environment, then they won't do it again because they'll miss the attention they're getting. Also, however, that's the advantage. However, in red is the disadvantage, which is that it could act as a reinforcement if you use it incorrectly. Because if, say, a child's in a class and they misbehave, if they're not doing their work and you send them out, then that just reinforces their behaviour because they stay away from their work because they're out of the classroom. So it has to be used correctly if it's going to be effective. Which brings me on to detention. This is when used correctly, it should reduce problem behaviours. So, so if they misbehave, they lose their break, stay longer in school, it's a form of negative punishment, i.e. that you take away something they like and it punishes them. But however, there are negatives from it, as in if you give them longer without study breaks has been found to reduce attention, because if you have, say, school 6 hours long and you keep them in over their break time, they're in lessons then for 6 hours in a row, and clearly that's not going to be effective in helping them learn. So they need study breaks, so perhaps giving them a break, still giving them a break, but punishing them after school would probably be more effective. Also, another bad thing about detention is that some children may find it enjoyable. This may sound a bit weird, but I think it is definitely the case, because certain groups of children would be in a class and they'd all misbehave, always the same ones, so they become like a tight-knit friendship group or whatever. So when one of their friends get detention and they don't, they go outside to their playtime or whatever, and they're not with their friends, so they think, oh, this is rubbish, I'm with all these geeks who just learn, I want to be with my mates in detention. So they're more likely to conform with what their group are doing and misbehave, so they get to go in detention and hang around with their friends. I don't know, in my mind this rhymes, so misbehaviour equals no chair. The aim of this is basically when you're in a class and you misbehave, you're forced to stand up in front of everyone else. The aim of this is to embarrass children in front of their peers. Ladd found that peer acceptance is of premium importance to children, so embarrassing them in front of their peers is clearly going to be good in reducing the problem behaviour. However, the disadvantage is if you give them the attention if these kids are just misbehaving to get attention, then making them stand up in front of everyone is sort of like they get like a kick from it, so they'll do it again because it's becoming a reinforcement. Also, if they're standing up, they have the increased potential to distract others because they're like the centre of attention. Writing lines. This is when, say if you misbehave and you've done something badly, you're forced to write out, so say if you, can't say that, say if you talked in class, you'd write, I must not talk in class again and again and again. This has been found to be beneficial because it gives students time to reflect on their bad behaviour, they realise it's bad, so they will less likely to be doing it again. And also, it has a sort of alternative benefit of if you're writing lines, the more practice you do, the better you become at it. So instead of being punished in a way where you sit in a class on your own or something like detention, by writing lines you actually improve an aspect of schooling. And a negative is that, the negative is you may associate writing with being punished. So if you're told, oh, you must write because you've been bad, you're likely to think, oh, I don't want to write because last time I wrote it was because I spat on the floor or something. So you won't want to write when you're not being punished, which is what's been found. In conclusion, what I think is that punishment clearly has some benefits, as mentioned. However, the main disadvantages and problems come in when it's implemented badly. So what educators really need to do is make sure they are actually punishing students and not reinforcing their behaviours, and then it's effective in education. And that's a lot. Oh, any questions? Sorry.
Just discipline and then punishment not an extreme form of discipline?
It depends. Like corporal punishment is an extreme form of discipline, but it's sort of the same thing. Like discipline is sort of punishment in a.
But because obviously the ones that you said, I call them discipline.
Yeah.
So you're just saying.
But they use the principles. Sorry. It can't. Yeah, but they use the principles of all of them. Use the principles of negative or positive punishment, but sort of in a disciplinarian sort of way.
Punishments just like an external control that already teaches the child to do it by themselves.
Well, obviously, in my last slide, intrinsic motivation would be the ideal thing to foster in children, but some, I think, this is I'd say for lower school children who probably wouldn't get to that sort of stage yet. So just to set them on the path of learning, you've got to give them some sort of reinforcement and punishment. The extrinsic motivators have got to be, I'd say you need to use them early on. That's just what I think. I don't know if there's research to support that, but I think for Punish them young. Just get them in the zone, and then later they're likely to learn on their own. That's what I think, anyway. Any more? No? Great.